Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I kind of want to talk about making UK bass and what are the ingredients used to make it.
Pop, 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 pop it. Pop, 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 pop.
All right, so first things first, I want to talk about the drums here. And I want to outline that the drums are actually very similar to a typical dubstep song, like EDM dubstep. That type of drum pattern would work perfectly fine. You know, the typical boom, choo. We want to spice things up a little bit and keep it a little bit more bouncy. So I've interspliced some kicks here and there and placed them where I think, you know, the beat could use a little bit more impact, and you'll go back and forth with your bass sounds, you know, adding kicks, removing kicks. But if you create a beat with the kicks where you want them to be, you can kind of imagine where you want your bass sounds to be. This is our pattern here. We've got kind of minimal processing, just a little bit of EQ. And even though these sounds are ready to be added directly into your DAW and just used in a song, every song is a little bit different, and you may want to mix things different. You may want to add transients to a kick. You may want to remove transients. You want a softer kick, depends. Snare is like a typical, like kind of crossbreed between like a trap and like a clap, and maybe even a little bit of a dubstep snare, but it doesn't have that 200 hertz boost. Then next, we want to add in our percussion here, and we want to have hi-hats swung, and it's important that they're swung because if they're not, it just doesn't have the same vibe, doesn't have the same swag, if that makes sense. So we've got some hats here, and the hats are playing this. And to give your beat a little bit more groove, you want to mess with the velocities as much as you possibly can. Just changing these velocities really has a big impact how your hi-hats are sounding and how they're perceived. So mess around with that. That can give you a lot of different feelings if you mess with the velocities here. On the opening of the drop here, we've got a little crash. And all we want is one. We don't want to spam the crashes too much because it's all about minimal intricacy, if that makes sense. You want the sounds to really speak for themselves, and adding a little too many percussion elements or too many hi-hats can take away from it and make it feel a little bit more forced, and we don't want that. So minimal hi-hat elements. And I've also got this little bongo thing here. I'm using the MAGC trick that I've talked about in another video, and this is so that it follows the dynamics of our main bass here. So it will only play the loud parts when there are loud parts playing in the main bass there. So that's a cool little element, textural element. And then we move on to the basses, and this is, I'm going to break down my thought process here. So like I said, in dubstep, generally you have that one initial hit. It's just a long hit, and it sets up the tone for the rest of the drop. And generally, if you have something low and guttural, kind of like this, well, not very much high-end energy. You've got fuzz and you've got all that stuff, but you don't have very much high-end energy like a screech or anything like that, then the rest of it can have the screech. Or if we do the opposite, we have the initial hit being the screech, and then everything else should be deeper. And the reason you do this is because you want that contrast. If there's no contrast, it just gets boring really fast. So we've got our initial hit, and I went with kind of like a deeper sound. And then even in dubstep, which is, you know, it's very similar, you have some sort of like reverb, throw, send, or something that's a little bit higher frequency that brings us into the next bar. So we've got ambience related, any sort of ambience or something that isn't filling the entire spectrum, but gives you like a sneak peek, a preview of what's to come, if that makes sense. So it's just a little sound, and it's mostly reverb. And this is good because it makes the impact of the next part hit really hard. So we'll solo the drums and the bass here. So it's got kind of like a suction-y effect because of this sound, which I automate up a little auto filter here, bringing up the high frequencies as it comes in. We've also got this layered in the background. Just another ambience element to fill it up. And then no memorable song is complete without a really good, catchy vocal thing.
Pop, 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 pop it.
And we've got an echo. So this is just to emphasize the movement here. And so
Pop, 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 pop.
when it's on 1/4 there, it's going to fill in those gaps between each vocal, but it's going to be quieter and it's going to be, you know, a bit more ambience, reverby. And we've also got an EQ here to make sure that it's not taking up the full spectrum, because if it was taking up the full spectrum, once again, it gets very monotonous and tiring to the ears to just have things playing the exact same the entire time. We want to decrease the amount of that as much as possible. So the main basses soloed out would be these here. And that's basically the essence of the whole drop. Everything outside of this and the drums are filler to try and smooth over those rough edges and fill in space and fill in the blanks there. So that, in essence, is your bare bones track, right? And now if we bring in all the other elements that we're using to fill in space and kind of create a melodic undertone to it, we've got this, which is in there quietly to give you that feeling of movement in the feeling of the song, or like the vibe. Because if there's no melodic elements, it can feel very samey. And like we said earlier, we don't want it to feel samey. So adding chords or some sort of melody or lead in the background is going to make it feel like more soundtracky, more like your song has something to say versus being just a beat. So this helps that. Our vocal, we've got this background element. We've added this as the ambience. We've got a couple of these fills here. And these go under the two chants that I have. Now this vocal sample here is creating a lot of cool ambience. And it's literally just the Dub Syndicate preset in Ableton. So if you just Control F, type in Dub Syndicate, go to delay. Go to delay, go to echo. It's so good. You can use it on everything. It's amazing. And then we've got this little thing here, which I'm panning every time it plays. And this goes under this main bass. Doesn't play all the way through because I want this here,
Pop it.
this vocal sample, to cut through. And having that just kind of muddied it up a little bit, and it was harder to hear. So I've got a new project file open, and I want to quickly run through a drop with you here. We're just going to use the sample pack, and maybe we'll use some effects here and there, but we're going to try to keep it very bare bones. And I've got a kick and a snare, and I want my project file to be 140 BPM, and you can change that in the top left. And we've got our kick, and we've got a snare here, both from the pack. And we're just going to quickly sketch out an idea here. So we're going to start with the basic drum beat here. Then we'll make our bass sounds, and then we will see where we want to put our kicks, and then we'll go from there. Maybe let's add a hi-hat now. So we've got this one. So we want to just leave that on the 1, and then for our closed hats, let's use this one for our closed hat, and C3 so that it's the correct pitch. So we want it a little bit faster than that. All right. Now, the cool thing that I like to do is click on this little recycle button on the left of your MIDI clip, and that's the groove pool. You can click that, and I like to use one called Swing 16ths 57. If we double time these, we've got a nice little swung pattern here. If you want it to be halftime, we can go back into this groove pool and swap this out for eighths. but it makes it sound kind of triplety. So we're not going to do that. And we will add some areas where we want some extra hi-hats. So now we've got this. Nice. All right, let's get back to our pack. Let's pick out some sounds here. So let's use this sound. I really like this one. We're going to put this in our main bass group. And here we've just got a shaper box that's pulling the audio from our drums bus here. So every time a drum hits, it'll trigger our envelope here. And so that's how we're doing our sidechain in this project. I like the C, but we can go to maybe F sharp, G. Maybe we'll do G. We'll do G. Okay, I've decided, well, I guess we'll do D instead. We'll do D instead. It's a little bit easier to work with. So I like this, but I kind of want to play a melody with this bass because it has that higher end frequency. That could be cool. So let's try something with MIDI here. So this is already in C. So, and we're going to be working in D. So we can switch the scale over here and switch this to minor. And then maybe we'll play an E, an F. We'll do one of these. Let's turn our velocity inside our sampler down so that it's not affected by the velocity of our MIDI. Then we're going to turn the volume up on this to be 0, so it'll always be the loudest it can be. So I like that. So I kind of hear a kick. Yeah, something like that. So we need something to fill up this space here. Let's see. I have an idea for this. So we're in D, right? So we'll bring this down 5. And then maybe let's use an auto pan and turn the phase down and then switch this to invert. And that will give us a tremolo. So that could be kind of cool, maybe. So maybe we can have a little bit of a gap here. And then for the turnaround, we can have something different. So maybe we'll use another bass here. So to quickly get back to a folder that you were in or that you know a sample is from, if you right click it and you go show in browser, that will bring you directly back to the sample pack that that sound is from. So let's see. We wanted another bass sound. Let's use this. And we'll go down 2 to make it D. So we kind of have our bare bones track here. And now it's just about making these sounds. Maybe we will add some velocities to these. And that should help a lot with making this sound, this hi-hat sound a little bit more alive. And we will duplicate the end here. That there. So this is cool. I think I hear maybe some sort of a little bit of ambience on the main sound here. So we'll put on a hybrid reverb and we'll kind of like solo out the high end here. And we don't want that much. So because this is such a bare bones track, let's try to throw in we'll throw in some percussion here, and that should fill up some spots. So let's grab some perks maybe. We're just throwing these in places where we think might sound good. And if it doesn't sound good in one spot, try moving it around a little bit. A lot of times it's just in the wrong place. The sound is probably fine, just in the wrong spot. So this, I kind of want like a double, but I want it to be like staccato, like very short. It's a little loud, so we'll bring that down. Let's try some effects now. So because we're in D, we can use this ambience without having to pitch anything around, and this should be kind of cool. And let's also put on our auto pan that we used earlier, and we're going to switch this to the slope mode here, and we want to have it inverted, but we want to put it on 1/4 on quarter notes. So now this is kind of tying everything together. I really like that. Let's add another auto pan, but this time we're going to use it for its intended purpose, which is to actually pan the sound. And we're going to just bring the volume down. Like I said on the previous demo, if you want somebody to really pay attention to something, you should try to reduce the background noise or the ambience of the sound. So maybe we'll reduce the volume of this ambience on that initial hit. And then for the last one as well, maybe we'll do that too. And then for this turnaround, maybe we can go up to have a cool little melody switch. I kind of want this last sound to kind of be a little bit more distorted. So we're going to throw on the Ableton saturator. And if you don't have the new Ableton, you might not be able to do this, but there is a new mode called Bass Shaper. And if you click this little arrow here, you get some cool new tools to work with. And we're going to just boost up this low end here. Let me solo it. And now the fun happens when we play with this here. So you're kind of choosing which frequencies are going to hit the saturator first. So it's essentially the same thing as like me EQing this here and going into the drive, but this is also doing the inverse as well. So it's boosting in if I'm boosting, and then after it's putting another EQ and removing those frequencies. So it's additive and subtractive at the same time. It's very useful for getting different sounds. So this is before, right? Very low and deep. Here we've got a bit of screechiness to it. And we're going to put this before the EQ so that we can EQ the sound of the distortion. That sounds pretty cool to me. Let's hear it. So I lost a bit of sub. Let's boost the sub up a little bit. So now that you get that, the world is your oyster now. You kind of have no rules when it comes to the rest of this, that you kind of have the UK bass vibe down at this point. Next thing we could do is maybe add some vocals or chops or anything like that.
Bass hits hard.
So we can use this as fills, we can use this as a pre-drop, we could use this as anything that we want, obviously. So let's try it here. This could be cool in this little spot. And then there is a little breath thing, which could be cool right there. Take that, and we'll chop this out, and then we'll leave it for the turnaround. I have no idea what this sounds like. I'm just throwing it in there based on what I see in my project, and it looks like there's room to have sounds there. So let's hear it. Okay. I don't like the first one. I do like this breath, but we need to make it louder. This one, I don't like. But I do like the turnaround. But I want to replace the last one with maybe just a semitone down and duplicate the third. I feel like that serves our purpose a little better. This is definitely not a melodic sounding drop. We could make it one, but I think it benefits from it not being melodic. It has just like a eerie vibe, especially with the ambience in the background. Cool. Let's try a phrase maybe.
Where you at?
Close your eyes and listen.
Eyes on me. Pop it. Give me that. Give me that.
Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge.
We could try this. So this is 134, but we'll warp it to 140.
Edge.
And we'll just repeat the edge part there.
Than a razor edge. Edge.
So this could just repeat over and over. And then if we really want to on the turnaround, we can have it here. Now, this is up to preference. Some people like their vocals being sidechained. I like them sidechained if they're part of the beat and they're repeating. But if it's like actual spoken word, I'll split it up and I'll make it unsidechained for this part. So let's hear how this sounds.
Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Edge, 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 edge. Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Edge, 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 edge.
Cool. All right. So for like 10 minutes, we went from nothing to having a cool little like start of a song here. Now you can go and flesh this out with the rest of the sounds from the pack, or you can make your own, obviously, and just get creative. Throw in sounds wherever you want, and if it sounds good, keep it. If it doesn't sound good, remove it. That's kind of like the essence of all of this. We can throw in some impacts maybe. So this might be cool, but it's got some low end, so we'll EQ out the low end.
Wordplay tight, sharper than edge. Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Edge. Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Edge, 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 edge.
We've got a clap. We can add small little impacts on each bar here. We'll make them quiet, like 15 dB.
Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge. Wordplay tight, sharper than a razor edge.
So that's cool. So let's use this one. If you hold Control, Shift, and Alt, you can click and drag inside the sample if it's slightly cropped or a little bit. And you can move the sample around without having to move anything. So I don't want that little extra thing at the end there. So I've just moved the sample so I can not have that. And we can use this at the end of the bars here. And that'll add some extra impact for when the turnarounds happen. And so there you have it. That's kind of how you make UK bass.